Hiya. I hope you can all hear me all right. I'm just going to keep this sort of reasonably quick, allow some time for questions at the end. So what I want to try and answer for you is, should your show have an app? So I'm Tellybug, we build apps for shows, that's all we do. And I'll be honest, we've had some successes, some very big successes. We've also had some failures. We've learned some things that you don't want to do. So I just want to share with you a bit some of the thinking that we have when we're looking at things and going, should we do an app for this? Is it worthwhile? So first thing, I've got the kind of simplified version of the thought process that we go through. There's a few things that kind of stand out on this. Firstly, if you're a sort of show that wants users to interact, if you're a big talent show where you've got voting in, those, today, you need to have an app. That's where the users are, and all you've got to do is look at the successes of the big voting shows as they've moved to free voting in apps, and the volumes of people that are doing that, coming away from older telephony-style interaction, is huge. So that one's really easy. If you're doing that sort of show, the answer is definitely yes. If it's not that sort of show, the answer is sometimes yes. So then what you want to look at is how well formatted it is. And actually one of the key questions here that you're looking to ask is, does the show have space in it for the viewer to look down at another screen and not at the TV? One of the examples that we quite often give is drama. Most of the time, we think we probably couldn't do anything with the drama show that would do anything other than make the drama worse, because we're distracting you from watching the TV show. So the show needs to have some elements that it's quite predictable. People know what to expect, so they know when to look down and they know when to look up. The other key one is, can you really quickly explain what the app is? You're going to have to tell viewers what the app is, why they should get it. And you're going to have to do that very, very fast. We normally find 10 seconds in the show is what we get to explain it. If you can't explain the app that quickly to viewers, then it's probably not worth doing. Because they're not going to understand. They're going to be watching the TV show. They're not going to bother. And then you get down to the questions about, can the show make, do you have sponsors that can make money? There's a growing market for sponsors and from in-app revenue. In fact, I'm going to talk tomorrow just on how to make money from apps. But clearly, to do that, you've got to decide that it's worthwhile having an app. If all of that's too complicated, there's a really simple question to ask. If you've got £1 million and no better way to spend it, then yeah, you should have an app come and talk to us. If you don't, or you do have better ways to spend it, don't bother, or start to think a bit more about what you're doing. So what do we think about? So the sort of questions that we ask when we're looking at shows are really around what's the viewer feeling while they're watching TV. So we start to look at what are the sort of emotions that they've got. Are they getting a sense of achievement? Can we reward them, right? How involved are they? And do they get recognized for doing it? Now, most shows and most show apps don't achieve all of these. Right? They'll just achieve some of them. Whole genre of quite successful show apps are quiz shows, right? Very good there. They hit achievement, they hit rewards, right? And in some cases, they hit recognition on that. So those sorts of apps, really good on those. In others, particularly the talent show apps, we do quite a lot of emotion in them, a lot of involvement. From people. So you're starting to kind of see those things. You're starting to get those. People want to do something, right? They either want to do better than the people they're seeing on the TV. They want to support the people they're seeing on TV. So a lot of it comes down to ask the question, what's the viewer feeling? What are they going to want to do? What are they going to want to react? They're going to react, right? They have been reacting since before apps were invented, right? Since before the internet was invented. Anybody who's watched a quiz show and shouted the answers to the TV has played along. Anybody who's watched a talent show and put their face, their hand on their face, and they can't believe it's what's going on, or thought, been really impressed by something, they've had those reactions and they've talked about them. So really, what we're trying to do with apps is start to capture and channel those things, and ways that we can start to direct and ultimately, make more entertaining and improve the experience. So if I look at each of these in turn, you start emotion. That's really about, are you caring? Do you actually care about the people that you're seeing, right? Or is this something you're just sitting back and you don't care about? Do you want them to succeed? Do you want them to fail? Do you feel like they're your friend, right? If it's a contestant you're seeing and you see once and once only, you don't have enough time as a viewer to build up a relationship with them and to feel like you care about them. So you're probably not going to with that. But also, this builds in tribes, right? So do you feel like you support things? I think one of the best examples here that drives this, that also works very well for second screen, is sport. Right? So sport drives an awful lot of emotion, a lot of tribal behaviour. So that really drives the desire for people to want to do more and get closer to what they're doing. Achievement. So you can do better. Very much quiz shows. These really fit this. So you get a sense of achievement, a sense of reward for doing something. But those elements, play along that. Most of the shows that we do, apps around, have quiz and reward elements in. Simple trivia questions that are about something about the show that make you feel good if you get it right. They also work if you see other people getting it wrong, you feel better than them. But if you got it wrong and you see other people getting it wrong, right, you don't feel so bad. You're not alone, right? There's other people. So there's a part of a shared experience. A reward's really important. We're asking people to spend more of their time and attention, right? They've got their phone in front of them, they've got the TV on, right? They're choosing to look away from the TV and they're choosing to use the phone, and we've got to persuade them to use the apps that we're building rather than a social network, or frankly, just talk to the person on the sofa next to them. So we've got to give them a real reward. They've got to get some benefit for it. A lot of the time we start, the first thing you think, you start to go down the track of, well, let's give them prizes, let's give them vouchers from sponsors. And what we've learned is actually you don't have to work that hard, right? Very simple rewards work well for people. Point scoring mechanisms work very well. Very, very simple rewards, but giving them some benefit and recognizing them for what they've done, giving them something back is important. Involvement. This was probably the birth of kind of second screen going back to the 1960s with Opportunity Knocks. So a sense that actually you're involved in the show, you're part of the show, and that the show's success depends on what you, the viewer, are doing. If you look at shows like Got Talent, X Factor, and The Voice, all have a big element of this in. So you're choosing the outcome right the way through. And that drives that, really reinforces that tribal behaviour. But also, how do we start to, really give you that feeling that you have been involved, that you are doing more? And so we're starting to see more and more creativity coming in terms of ways that you can include this. Beyond the phone vote will then tell you the result half an hour later or a day later. You start to be able to do this while the show's on and actually feed back directly to people what their involvement is having. And recognition. The great one of this is seeing your name on TV, seeing your face on TV. So, did your team win? Right? Do you see who you supported succeed? So you've got that involvement all round of getting some recognition, seeing the fact that you did, but also with the second screen, you've got a way to actually share that back directly to the viewers. So whilst you may not be able to put every single person's face on TV, right, you can start to push people's faces into the apps they've got. So they're seeing them, they're seeing their friends on it. So you're looking at those, and you've got those shows here, and thinking, yeah, okay, my show's got all that, so should I have an app? So that's when you get to some of the practical considerations, right? And I think one of the ones that we come across most often is the issues of broadcast delay. So when a show's live, if a show is live, you come with the naive assumption, and most viewers think that that means it's happening right now. Turns out right now is a slightly fuzzy concept in TV. So back in the good old days of analog TV, live in the studio and live on your TV was probably about a second later. Now it can be up to about 60 seconds later. You're seeing. So just gives you some idea for the UK. Freeview, when you see a Freeview, something on Freeview on your TV, that's actually happening about 7 seconds after it was in a studio. If you're watching the thing on a live stream on BBC iPlayer, that'll be about 60 seconds after it happened in studio. But viewers, as far as they're concerned, it's live. It's happening as they're seeing it for the first time. If it's a live show, it's really happening for the first time. Actually, even if it's a pre-recorded show, their impression is it's happening for the first time for them. So you've really got to think about what's that. The other challenge you've got to think about with this is viewer reaction time. One of the things that we quite often think about is with these apps, you've got the app, we like to think that you're sat there with it the whole time in your hand and that's it. It's the most important thing after the TV in your living room. It's not quite true. Because probably your phone is on the table in front of you, right next to a bottle of beer. And so what we need to do is make it more rewarding for you to pick up the phone than pick up the bottle of beer. And so you've got to allow the time for people to do that. Maybe their phone's going to be locked, they've got to do something. So you're trying to get somebody to react really quickly. A, they're seeing it 60 seconds after you did it in studio. B, they've now got to put their beer down, fumble with their phone, unlock it, get it, and then have a chance to react. You don't want that moment to be gone. So actually, you've got to really think about the time that it takes people to work out what they want to do and react, and give them the time to do that, because otherwise they're going to be disappointed. The other element is what percentage of the audience should you aim for? And there's a very simple, easy answer to this, which is to think, well, it should be everybody. So if it's 100% of the audience are in the app, you've probably built an absolutely brilliant app, but you didn't need a TV show. And in fact, it'd probably be an awful lot easier to do that without having to worry about broadcasters, broadcaster regulation, filming it, and all the complexity of making a TV show. Just go build an app, right? So 100% doesn't necessarily look right. So if you're doing an app alongside a TV show, it's got to be a benefit to the TV side as well. And you've got to realize that maybe not everybody who's watching it is going to want to interact with the app. So we're coming up with a rule of thumb, probably somewhere in the kind of 25 to 30% range is probably the right target. If you're going above that, either you've built a wildly successful app that happens to have a TV show tie-in, in which case you should probably be aiming well above the 100% into kind of 300–400% of the audience, or you've built a brilliant TV show that's got an app tie-in. So I think you need to think about kind of where are you going for there, and then particularly if you're aiming in that, certainly where we see most things now, in that sort of segment of the audience, the more engaged audience, the super fans that you want to have interacting. How is what they're doing really adding value to the other people who are watching the show? Because if you're not doing that, you're probably getting distracted by the second screen and the TV experience and not creating a really great TV show. And then there's is it pre-recorded versus live? Live is great if you can do it for an app because you can react in real time, you can show people what's happening. But it's a lot more expensive. So you then need to start to think about the practicalities of what happens with live. If I look at particularly broadcast delay is the thing that's worth thinking about because this affects both live and pre-recorded because the viewers are all experiencing it at the same time. So this is one of the things that we kind of draw just to really picture what's going on. So in studio, you're doing something here. It's a question, it's a moment on TV that you want people to interact. Maybe 7 seconds later, people see that moment on digital TV. And then other people, you've got various different platforms in here coming in, and internet streaming maybe arriving 60 seconds after. That's the first point that people could have to react. You've then got to allow for their reaction time to come in at some point between here and here for them to actually do something. And then this is the first point you're going to be able to actually respond to that. So we've, again, come up with the rule of thumb. If you don't have about 90 seconds between these moments, you're probably going to have problems, which means that you can't start to do a lot of really fast-paced quiz show type experiences because people don't have the time to react unless you start looking at other solutions for keeping people individually in sync. So really thinking about kind of filling that gap and what do you do around there and how does that fit in with your TV format? That's the sort of things that you need to start thinking about. So you've got a show that fits an app, right? Does what the viewers want. You can solve some of the practical problems around doing a show with an app that isn't just doing an app. You can fill that in. You start to have some good candidates for should a show have an app, which will probably lead you on to the kind of next question. So where do you go from there? You've got a clear idea. You can explain it. That pretty much comes on to the next question, which I'm going to cover tomorrow, which is how do you then start to make money from it? So those of you that want to come along tomorrow, I'm going to talk just about all the different ways that you can make money in apps tomorrow. But now, actually, just want to hand over to you and any questions around this. Go, the back.
Hello, Tony Gregory, freelance live TV director. So from your point of view, given everything that you've talked about there, what worked and what didn't work about Winner Takes It All on Channel 4? So we didn't do Winner Takes It All. So I'm quite... Yeah. So what worked for me about Winner Takes It All was I think the concept worked with that. I actually think that the bit that they did outside the show being on with the ability to upload auditions, I actually think that was brilliant. That's exactly what I want for that. What I think they missed is actually connecting up that real kind of drama and feeling edge of your seat there. So the play along that you got, is that you had people on the show and you wanted to do something to make something happen to them, but that connection between what you were doing and anything happening to them just wasn't there. And in fact, actually, if you think about the broadcast delay, it was inevitable that it would never, ever be there. So I think if you wanted to give people who were playing along that feeling that they were really driving something and affecting something, right, you had to think more about the interaction model that you were doing and think about a way that you could reward that without them waiting for that individual TV moment, right? The other gotcha is the numbers are really big on this. And because general elections accepted, generally polling works, chances are by the time you've got a first 1,000 people interacting on one of these things, nothing changes when the next 500,000 people come on. So one of the big challenges is you really want this thing that's like, as more people are coming on, it swings more. But that isn't what happened, because the first 1,000 people are probably a representative sample of your audience on average. They set it, that's it, and the answer never changes. So you actually have to think quite hard about designing something that is going to drive change and drive that sort of drama and emotion that you're used to seeing on TV that is very carefully produced. You actually have to really think about getting the interaction working so that you drive that sort of interaction. Other questions? No? Well, I'm going to be around after this. I'm back here tomorrow for those of you who want to find out how to make money from these apps. All right, thanks a lot.